I've always been goal-driven. One of my goals was to become a millionaire, and I achieved that. And I wondered, well, how many millionaires are there in the United States? And the answer is 21.9 million. And the average age is 37 years of age. I didn't get it by 37. So then I said, what's the next goal? I think, is to become a billionaire. There happens to be 724 billionaires in the United States, and the average age of them is 51 years of age. How do you become a billionaire? And what I realized, and when I looked at the list, is that they're self-made. They are people who go out with an idea and create it and then gather assets from other people to build their idea, and that's called private equity. And so I'm now studying private equity, and I want to share with you some of the things that I've learned, how I might be able to become a billionaire through private equity.
Best of Us Investors presents Carrie Griegmeyer.
So the first thing I wanted to do is to gain a better understanding of how private equity works and how companies grow to make their founders billionaires. And so I went to my TV station, my streaming station, and I found this movie called We Crashed. And what it is a following of WeWork. And so I want you to go look at that. It's called We Crashed, and it's on Apple TV. So go look at that. And then just last night I finished watching one. It's called Super Pumped, the Battle for Uber, and it's on Showtime. And what it does is it walks you through how a founder has an idea, how then he sells part of his shares of ownership to investors, and how they build that and how they become then billionaires. The next thing I did was go look and see who are the billionaires and what do they have in common. Well, we all know who number one is. That's Elon Musk, then Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, Larry Ellison, Steve Ballmer, Michael Bloomberg, and Mark Zuckerberg. And the majority of them are these young people who have ideas, put them together, and then sell shares and to finance the growth of their company. So after looking at my list of top 10, I said, how could I attach myself to one of those and reap the benefits of their past experience and increase my wealth? And I don't know if I can become a billionaire, but I can benefit from their knowledge and their experience. And the obvious one is Elon. You know, Elon has done his thing with Tesla. He's moving on in SpaceX. He's got Neuralink. And so I said, okay, now how could I then attach myself to Elon in this? And that brought me to private equity. And I studied private equity. I watched my two shows. I understand how it works and how they then make shares available. And then I came across Disruptor. Disruptor is a firm that goes out and buys the shares of Elon's companies, let's use SpaceX as an example, from employees who have either been paid in options. Again, I figured that out from the shows I watched, the WeWork and the Uber. And those shares then are traded on a secondary market. So at that point, you have to come to an understanding of how is the company working. And if you watch the one on Super Pumped, you'll see this becomes very important, is to understand what the founder is doing, what his objectives are, how ethical he is, and if in fact, if it is a safe and good investment, because this is risk. I mean, they aren't overseen by the SEC, and they aren't releasing all the records. So I went to Disruptor's app and I studied SpaceX. And what I've learned is you've got to recognize that they are in different phases of growth. The idea is emerged. The investors come in and help expand the idea, and then the idea is then financed and grown beyond. And in SpaceX, you had this idea that the NASA was not really very efficient in putting rockets to the moon, and they had pretty much given up on it. But Elon came in and said, we can make it more efficient, and we can actually do a lot of 3D printing on these rockets. And then rather than just letting them explode and go into the ocean, we can recapture them and bring them back. So the SpaceX is beyond the conceptual phase, and it's moved on to where it has made a product. And it has its product, and then you look at it and say, okay, how efficient is that product? What is the demand for that product? And is that product then going to be usable in the future? And is it going to be a part of our future? Do we really want to put satellites in the sky that provide us internet service? I raise my hand for that one. Yeah, I think that's something we need to do, because I think it will make my service more efficient, and it will make it available to parts of the world that is not. So there's a product there. There's a product there that then can be marketed. And SpaceX, I think, is the first in the industry. Now, it has been copied. Jeff Bezos stepped forward, and he's got his Blue Origins. The next element is their early efforts successful? Are they building a portfolio of products that, in fact, can be adapted and used, and is there a market for them? And I think that's obvious, because NASA has, in some cases, stepped aside. I think it's kind of fun that NASA recently said they were going to put their own rocket up, and I'm not sure they got it up yet. I know they failed at 2 times because of leakages in the fuel cells. God help them for that one. And so I think we are learning just from the mistakes of NASA that if this industry is going to grow, it's going to grow on the private side. Because the reality is the private side is much more efficient. It is profit driven, and it doesn't have an endless source of money like the government, who will just print more money and allocate more money. But on the other hand, you do need the backing of the government, and we have seen recently that Biden has funded some programs to help SpaceX and the space industry move forward. Now, all this information is available to you on the app provided by Disruptor. I'll give you a link to the app. This is a picture of what the app looks like and how they take you through all the due diligence that they have done to give you an understanding of what SpaceX is. Now, I need to prepare you that you can't be a first-time investor. You've got to be an accredited investor in order to invest in these private equity firms such as SpaceX. What does that mean? That means you need to prove that you understand what you're doing. And you do that by saying, yes, I have a portfolio in excess of $1 million, or I have a history of income in excess of $200,000 in the preceding 2 years, or I'm a licensed investment advisor, that you have your Series 6 or your Series 7, and you have been schooled and educated in the art of investing. So that's your ticket to get in. But once you get in, you can use Disruptor to find on the secondary market these shares available. The next element in any, and if you'll watch the two videos that I've spoken of, is funding, financials. Do you have enough money? And you'll hear the words burn rate and are you burning that money at a pace such that it is sustainable? Because they are not profitable yet. these new companies. They aren't public and they aren't profitable. So with that in mind, you need to get an understanding of where are they at and what are their valuations. Now, what is the valuation? Well, the valuation is going to be what the public, and in this case, the secondary market, is willing to pay the holders of these private shares at any given time. Now, my interpretation, as I look at it, it's going to fluctuate with the terms or the conditions of our current market. Let's assume that I've been a loyal employee of SpaceX for the last 5 years, and I've been granted options, and I've exercised those options, and now I'd like to get a bigger house. I'd like to maybe get a vacation house, and I want to cash those shares in. So I go to the secondary market, that's where Disruptor plays, and I say I want to sell my shares. Well, much like the stock market, there has to be a seller, okay, and there has to be a buyer, okay? So the buyer steps in and says, yeah, I want your shares, and this is what I'm willing to pay for them. Well, the motivation now becomes who wants to sell and who wants to buy the most. So there is a market, and in fact, Disruptor feeds off of that market. And in some cases, and that's why you need the app, you can go to the app on a daily, weekly basis and see what the current market price is for these shares. What does this do? Where are we headed with all this? This is where the big money is made. And again, I want you to go and watch the two shows that I spoke of. The first one is about WeWork. In fact, the title of the show is We Crashed, because you're going to learn this is not an easy game to play in. The second one then is Super Pumped, and that's the battle over Uber. If you'll watch those, and then if you'll get the app, and I'll put a link also to the app, and I'll put a link to the movie or the name of the movies, and you can find them, and you become educated on this. And if you're an accredited investor, this is going to open a door to you that is, again, it's not as volatile as the daily market, because truly SpaceX doesn't give a rat's ass what the inflation rate is or what interest rates are, because I guess they may know they're borrowing. They're not borrowing money. They're being invested in. They're going out to investors and saying, okay, this is where we are, and this is what we're doing, and this is how much we need to move forward. They're not borrowing money. They're selling shares. And this is an opportunity for you to move forward in your investment horizons. And I'm not saying you're going to become a billionaire, but it will open a new world to you. Again, study it, understand the risk, and then use Disruptor to help you move into this area, and most importantly, to educate you so that you make good investment decisions, okay? I want you to familiarize yourself with this. Get this on your phone, even if you're not an accredited investor, so that you understand it, so that when you do become an accredited investor, this is another tool in your toolbox of becoming a billionaire. We'll talk more about that, how you can also become a founder. That's what my end objective is, to take an idea and then go find people who want to help me bring that idea to fruition. That's what Carrie's all about. That's what Best of Us as Investors is about. And you need to find out what Disruptor is all about.